Okay, the time being 9 a.m. on Saturday, February 7th, 2026. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting being held for the first time in the new Town Hall, and it's a gorgeous room, and we're thrilled to be here. I'd like to start with a roll call. Mary Ann Galezzo. Here. Andy Levine.
Here.
Chris Diorio, excused. John Doherty, excused. Brad Jackson.
Here.
Joe Lovino.
Here.
Anthony Nelson, excused. Scott Neville.
Here.
Myself, Teresa Manganelli. I also want to mention that WCTV is taping this meeting for future use. And I'd like to introduce our town manager, Mr. Slagle. Take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the FinCom, for coming in on a snowy Saturday for us to get through the second half of the town budget, absent the schools. Before we get started on the agenda, I had an update. I had some new information that I got this week based on a manager's meeting regarding the Shawshing Tech budget. So if folks take a look in their budget book, education's on page 58. So as we generally do when we're preparing our budget, the tech budget is an estimate based on our best guess as to what we're going to see from the tech next year. This year, there's a couple of factors that significantly impacted the tech budget. The first is there was a reduction in the number of Wilmington students year over year of 31 students, which is a significant reduction. And that, so we conservatively estimated a 5% increase from the FY26 to the FY27 budget. The actual assessment change is a negative 6.5% increase. So we have an 11.5% delta between what we estimated and what their assessment actually is. Their assessment went down. The assessment that I was provided was $7,348,306. So it's right around a $900,000 difference between what we budgeted and what the actual assessment's going to be. So that the Finance Committee is aware, the plan is, because of the drop in this assessment and the changes that we discussed last time in the insurance evaluations, the insurance costs, that we're going to reduce our insurance costs. The plan is now to accelerate the Wildwood demolition capital plan. So that had tentatively been scheduled for 2 years from now. So we will be rolling that forward into FY27 and planning on doing that demolition as soon as possible after the school turns the building over to the town and after when the capital plan is passed. The estimate for that capital plan item, I believe, is about $1.8 million. So the insurance funds, the extra Shawshing Tech funds, plus another reduction in one of the police capital items is going to almost be enough to cover that. We will likely add, a couple $100,000 in free cash proposed, but we'll be able to move that forward 2 years. It'll save us the insurance on that vacant property for a couple of years and any kind of utility costs to maintain the heat in the building and any kind of custodial requirements for that building over a couple of years. And so something that we already knew we had to do, if we can accelerate it and save some costs on it, that made the most sense. But so one of the things we're able to do because of this, the Shawshing Tech budget and the insurance funds that we talked about last time. So I wanted the FinCom and the folks at home who are watching to know that. On to our regularly scheduled program, we are going to be talking about the Recreation Department, and I believe...
Could I just ask, make one comment and one question about that? The comment is that that's a draft budget by Shawshene Tech that hasn't been approved by their school committee.
Correct. That's correct.
So that was preliminary information given to you by the superintendent director at a town managers meeting, so that's good, but that's not coming from, that hasn't been voted by the Shawshene Tech board yet.
Sure.
So,
Their vote is
Good
on February
direction.
24th.
and, yeah, and that, as I recall, it's somewhere towards right after February school vacation. My other question was, what was the estimated demolition cost of Wildwood again?
About 1.8 million.
1.8
The bulk of that is because of the
asbestos.
asbestos. It's encapsulated, it wasn't a problem until you start knocking things down, and then it becomes a problem.
It's a big problem. Or expensive problem, not a
Yes,
big problem.
yes, it's an expensive problem. Yes. But that would prep it so that then if whatever use the town, I mean, the plan had been, use that for cemetery use, but if that's the way the town intends to go, it'll be, there'll be more time for the cemetery department to get it in shape for use. So I apologize. Are there any other questions, concerns about that information?
Just one question from me. From a process perspective, because it's slotted for fiscal year '29, how do we get it into fiscal year '27?
So this is a draft budget and a draft capital plan. There's always the opportunity for us to make changes before it goes to the public hearing. So we'll have the changes to the budget to give to the FinCom. Again, it's going to be after the school vote, so it'll be early February or probably early March before the public hearing on March 5th.
But if you could just explain that decrease in cost is the result of fewer students attending and not in a change in how they're spending their revenue.
Correct, yeah. So their actual budget increased year over year, not surprisingly, as most school budgets do. We lost 31 students from the prior year, and so they measure that every October. That was as a result of Bedford and Burlington using more of their allotment of seats. So historically, Bedford and Burlington did not use their full allotment of seats at the TAC. The last couple of years, they have started to use their full allotment of seats. So last year, we saw a 16 student reduction year over year. This year, we saw a 31 student reduction, and next year, we're likely to see another reduction because the TAC is moving from the current system to a lottery system, a pure lottery system where it's lottery by town, and each town just has a certain number of seats. So we will have 55 seats. So as long as there are 55 applicants from Wilmington, we'll use all those seats. But Burlington, for instance, has 54 seats. If they have 54 applicants, they will use that full allotment. Bedford has a certain number of seats. And so based on the applications to the TAC over the last few years, they anticipate those towns using their seat allotment. So we will only have 55 kids approximately I'm sorry, 58, I think it's 58 kids in the TAC next year, which means we have, I think, a graduating class of around 80. So there will be another reduction, significant reduction in class size. And that we'll have to evaluate what that's going to do for the budget. So this one was a kind of a drastic reduction that had a drastic impact. Next year, it will not be probably as drastic as this.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions concerning this? No?
Just a reminder, that's good news fiscally, bad news for some students.
For opportunity,
Because
yeah.
our applications from Wilmington, the numbers aren't changing significantly. So more kids, so now there'll be, the seats for Wilmington kids will be, it's more competitive. Or
Not
not
if-
competitive.
no, if
I
they go to a
apologize, not
lottery.
competitive. If it's a lottery, but it's more, you have a lower chance of getting in now now that Burlington and Bedford are using all their seats. Because what was happening is Burlington and Bedford, all of their kids were getting in, and then there were extra seats.
Right.
So they were allocated to Tewksbury, Wilmington, and Bill Ricker kids. And now, that's not the case. So there's good news, bad news there.
I think that's what concerns me about the lottery, not to get into a discussion about that, but, you know, we have students that really benefit from the tech and that environment and that direction in their studies. And then you can have kids that would do well either school, and a lottery might take that kid that is more flexible, and the child that really, really would benefit from the tech is shut out. So I appreciate what you're saying, because before, you could pretty much get in the beginning. If you got in the 9th grade, you were in good luck, but,
And there was some discretion on the part of the tech as to who they accepted based on interviews and based on the level of interest they showed during those interviews. So, which put a lot of pressure on kids. That was the negative part of it. But it did allow a personal approach to say, oh, well, you know, your dad owns a plumbing business, and you want to come to the tech in interest of continuing that family tradition, and, you know, they could take that into consideration. The state has determined that that's discriminatory and has dictated to Shawshene Tech and all vocational technical high schools that they cannot do that any longer. So, because the minority population of many vocational technical high schools did not reflect the minority population of the sending districts. So the Department of Education said, no, you gotta go full lottery. So, in an effort to make it to make it more equitable.
right.
In the view was, so this isn't even Shawshene's decision. When I was at Shawshene, we tried an intermediate step to just take away some of the, have some discretion in the decision-making points, et cetera, but the state has said, no, that's not possible. So this is not Shawshene Tech's. I'll be happy to point
Right.
the finger at Shawshene Tech when it's their decision. This is not their decision. This is the Department of Education statewide has dictated this for all vocational technical high schools.
Good to know, thank you.
I will say this, just to follow up very, very briefly. The one other thing that the superintendent had mentioned was anecdotally, in other places where they've switched from this system to a lottery system, it reduces the number of applicants. Because people understand that, like, their high qualifications aren't gonna get you in, it's just a roll of the dice. And so
Right,
that has reduced the number of applicants. That's just anecdotal, and obviously we'll find out next year.
yeah. Okay, so if we want to proceed with, we're not taking public comments, but thank you.
So, as I said, on to the regular program, which is moving to rec, which, I'll say it first, it's on page 55. So the Recreation Department is part of our Human Services function in town. As you look through the budget here, you can see there's a minor change in personnel services. That's as a result of COLAs and contractual increases. And the remainder of their budget is standing pat, level funded.
What's the balance in the revolving account?
So I checked yesterday, it's roughly 800,000.
And how do you plan on drawing some of that money down with programming?
Well, I can give some examples of what we've done this past year. There were some improvements over at Yentile. We fixed the scoreboard. There was some padding that needed to be done in front of the bleachers. And then the biggest thing we did this year, we test the fire pole at the beach every summer with the fire department. We tested 3 times with the old system. The quickest response time was 9 minutes, which isn't even close to the standard accepted time. So along with public buildings, we replaced the system over at the beach. So there's a completely new system over there, which I'm very proud of.
What was the cost on replacing the fire pole
That was $14,000.
and the repairs to Yentl?
I'm sorry, the Yentile?
Yentl, yeah.
Between the two things, it was roughly 3,000.
So we're also going to continue to look to this revolving fund to assist us in doing updates and repairs to the Yentile and other kind of outdoor recreation spaces in town. I appreciate this isn't intended to be a long-term savings account. It's intended to be a revolving account. So our plan is to look for places to bring in funds. I mean, to expend funds for recreational purposes. As we talk about the revolving account, it's also important to note that a lot of our programming is kind of tapped out. We have more applications that we can put into some of the programming that we do. So our summer programming it gets maxed out, and a lot of our other programming gets maxed out. So there's also the possibility, again, it's not in this budget, but in a future budget, to fund another program person out of the revolving fund and increase programming, so that there'd be more programming, more options, so that there aren't as many waiting lists as there are. Almost every program that I think Rec does ends up with a waiting list. And so if we have some more capacity in that account, we might be able to fund another program person. But that's not been decided for a future year. It's just a possibility.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions concerning the department?
Just a quick one. Have you found a lot of grants that you're no longer able to apply for due to our noncompliance? The MBTA community?
No.
No, you haven't?
No.
Great.
Brief question from me. In regards to your expenses that get drawn from the revolving account, typically how much does that sum up to?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact figure. I know I just wrapped up 2025 per se. I know we profited close to $40,000 this year. So, everything that comes in, we pay vendors through the revolving account, and all our part-time staff gets paid through that as well as Bree, the program coordinator. So we did make a small profit this year. I know it's not the goal of the department, but obviously it's better to profit a little bit than, be in the negative.
And because of the way that account works, so there's a trip to Europe. We pay the vendor our lump sum out of that account, and then every payment from the people who are going goes into that account. That generally ends up with a positive. We don't generally run those as a negative. The one town function that consistently runs as a negative is the beach. So we run in the red at the beach, and the goal of this, the way that our fee structure is to have the other programs kind of subsidize the run in the red at the beach. So that will always be the case, because there's a minor fee for the beach, but for residents it's free. So every lifeguard we pay, there's no revenue coming in for the beach really, but that's intentional, because
The beach is pretty much, it runs negative 30,000 every year. You can kind of count on that.
That much.
But if you look at the season of the summer, the rest of what we do, playground, tiny tots, kind of offsets the beach.
So do you think it would be possible to make a note ongoing on your budget page of your net proceeds from the year?
Sure.
You don't necessarily, unless somebody would find it useful, have to print out all those transactions, which would be maybe not quite so meaningful, but I think it would help us if we knew that last year, you know, we profited $40,000 from the running of this fabulous department. And in previous years, it was a little higher, a little bit lower.
Yep.
Just so that we have an idea of where money is sitting. and
Absolutely. Yep.
where available money is.
Typically, I've done that the calendar year. I'm guessing you guys would want that fiscally, is that correct?
Yeah, so on this page, on the, and Eric will show you what I'm talking about, you've already added a comment that we made previously to note that one person is paid from program funds. So that's very helpful for us. We don't remember this
Right.
year to year. So if we could also have a notation there, in this fiscal year, we expect to have excess of $40,000 from our revolving account.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
It may be the kind of thing where, I know some of the departments do have stats pages, so we might be able to put that in for record as well, just a full stats page that shows
Yeah.
the volume of those
Yeah,
programs
those-
and how many people
That's helpful.
we serve.
Yeah.
That, I think might be helpful.
We know how much the department is being used by our residents, but I think a stats page would be helpful.
Yeah. And
On another piece of this, can we talk a little bit, only peripherally involved in the thinking around the Glen Road School and the old, or slash Old Town Hall, and some thoughts for its use. And this department seems to have some level of mention in those conversations. So what is the vision that, and that may also impact, I mean, that's a vision that will have to be funded, so maybe this, part of these revolving funds, you know, we could pay that down, one-time costs with one-time monies is always the plan, right? So, but anyhow.
Sure, no, so that's a very good question. So there is actually a much more kind of well-formulated plan for the Glen Road, at least in the short term, which is to say, right now, the CARES program, which is at our schools, it provides before and after school care and enrichment for kids. They also run during the summers. And historically, during the summers, they run out of the north. Well, this summer, starting in June, the north is going to be a construction site, so there's not going to be any exterior space available at the north for them to run. So they will be moving the CARES program this summer from the north to the Buttwell. The Buttwell already is kind of laid out for, it's got parking, it's got the area, the playgrounds and space outside. So CARES will be moving there. As a school department program, they have kind of first dibs on which building they wanted, and so they do. It also has, I believe, AC in the Buttwell, which is kind of necessary during the summer. So we have the Tiny Tots program, which is historically run out of the Buttwell. So in talking with Brett and Dennis Kelly and the CARES program, the decision was made to try to move Tiny Tots to Glen Road. So that would be kind of a 3-year commitment, because obviously that's how long it's going to take before the North School is available for any kind of summer use again. And so we would turn a chunk of the space in the Glen Road building into kind of Tiny Tots interior space. It also has air conditioning. So we'll keep that building kind of up and running for that program. And then that kind of leads directly into, well, now we've already set it up for rec programming in multiple rooms in that building, because we have to for the Tiny Tots program. And the proposed plan was to expand recreational programming that could happen during the school year, where right now we don't have any space during the school year because all the schools are occupied by the school children. we would potentially have space for both preschool-age kids programming and also adult programming during the day at the Glen Road School. We haven't made any final decisions about that. Obviously, the building is available right now, but we're still in the moving in phase, and it's probably going to take public buildings, you know, a good chunk of time to get that space at the Glen Road up and running so that Tiny Tots can use it, starting in June. But the look ahead for next kind of school year would be, we're gonna have space in that building that's already set up for recreational use, and so it might make sense to expand some programming there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much, Brett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Go Patriots.
Yes. We were going to say that at the end.
I figured, but, you know, recreation. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Sure, jump
Have a
on the
safe drive.
bandwagon.
You what you want.
Yeah.
Next is page 45.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here with Valerie Gingrich, our Planning and Conservation Director, to talk about the Planning and Conservation Department as part of our community development function here in town. If you take a look at the proposed budget for planning and development, in the personnel services lines, what you see is contractual and COLAs in those lines. So that's what makes up those lines. There's no increase in overtime year over year. In the miscellaneous contractual services, we're actually lowering the advertising and printing budget year over year. We're cutting that in half. And I think maybe, Val, if you want to explain what the justification was at.
Yeah, so in the past, planning board applicants would submit their applications and the town would actually pay for the legal ads in the paper. So we've switched that over to them paying the crier directly, and we don't get involved with the payment. We don't make that payment anymore. So that cost has been shifted to the applicant. We do still have to pay for legal ads for zoning public hearings, so we do need funding in that line item, but we don't need to cover applications that come in.
What is the cost to the applicant?
It varies. They go by the length of the ad.
Words.
Right.
Yeah.
So my guess is it's probably, I think the last time I looked, it was maybe $300. But like I said, it varies, and that's now a transaction that happens completely separately and privately.
And so then the only kind of minor change at the bottom is an addition for furniture and equipment. Obviously, we moved into a new space, and so there's just we're consistently keeping that $1,500 just in case there's things that come up in the use of the new space that the department needs to fund. But that's the same as we put in there last year.
Are you seeing any people, Valerie, that are interested in doing, the small homes on their property?
ADUs.
The name escapes me at the moment.
Accessory dwelling units? Yes.
Yeah.
And we've always had a few a year, I would say. So it's not, I don't know that we're seeing a huge uptick, but maybe a slight uptick, just because it's talked about more and now more known that you can do that. So yeah, I think we've had, since the new bylaw was passed, I think we've had maybe 6 applications.
Are any of those standalone, or are they all attached?
Yeah, no, some of them I couldn't tell you how many, but I know that there was one that was kind of like a garage with living quarters above. There was one that was kind of slightly attached, but mostly detached. Mostly they're additions, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like most of your numbers are very stable from year to year. So that's good. Any questions?
Just a quick one for me. The site plan reviews, looking fiscal year '22 through '25, it's gone down steadily and it's been cut in half. So what is a site plan review and why are they cut in half over a couple of years ago?
Sure. So site plan review, whenever a commercial industrial property wants to build something or change their site, they come into the planning board for site plan review. We look at parking, circulation, lighting, make sure they're meeting all the zoning requirements, open space, all of those aspects. And so I think you're seeing a little bit of a decrease in activity, just generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, just kind of the second that, I think what you also saw was in '22 and '23 was a little bit of a kind of pent-up demand after COVID. So there were projects that we all know that just didn't go forward during COVID. And then, the issues with kind of the getting building equipment got a little bit hairy for a little while during COVID.
Can I add something to it?
Sure.
And if I could add, even a small project goes through that process, so it doesn't necessarily, the number of projects doesn't reflect the total development, value in town. So the number's a little deceiving that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll have our meeting in March with the public hearing, but is there anything that you're looking to propose on the warrant articles that we can get like a quick preview on?
Sure. Well, so the planning board's looking to propose a small edit to the ADU bylaw. It's really just a word change. And they're also, in conjunction with the Economic Development Committee, they're proposing a brewery use. Our bylaw doesn't call out that use specifically, so to encourage that type of use in our industrial district, it'll be the creation of that use and allowing that use in highway industrial.
There's also the possibility of an overlay district for billboards on 93. The overlay district would basically allow one billboard south of West Street on the east side. So we're looking at that location as a potential for both revenue for the town and you see those kind of the two-faced billboards along the highway. So we had a proposal that came in, and so there's a possibility that will be on as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Any large projects come forward in the last year that,
Yeah, so one of the largest, even though the warehouse was already built at 800 Salem Street, Amazon's taking that building as a tenant. Their build-out is quite impressive, and they're going to be constructing improvements to Route 62, all the way from, they've already constructed a turn lane on 62 into that site, 2 of them. They're going to be doing improvements to the Woburn-Salem Street intersection at the tavern, and also constructing first temporary lights at the 93 ramps, and then permanent lights. those areas have been identified as needing improvements even before that project came along. But their project will be funding and constructing all of that. So that was a kind of a large project that we had to work through some complicated timing and conditions for. We're also anticipating development at Charles River Labs, probably an application
Wow,
this
I
year,
haven't heard that word, those people. in a
that site.
while. We haven't heard from Charles River Labs in a while, have we?
Any
that's-
plans for the Lowell Street warehouse? That seems to
I haven't heard anything about
be
that.
empty for
It
over a
is-
year now.
It's been quite a while.
And
So-
that caveats to a question that might be a little controversial.
Well,
I just,
the assessor's office has reached out and had multiple conversations with the owners. They're not a fly-by-night company. It's a very large real estate holding company, a multinational real estate holding company. The impression they gave when they talked to us was that they were still in negotiations with one big fish to fill the whole building. So that's where we are.
so I hope the one big fish isn't Homeland Security. Because, they're looking for warehouses throughout the Northeast, so.
Yeah, we haven't gotten,
Much we can do, it's a private owner, but I would
Yeah.
hope that they would reach out to the town.
I would hope that wouldn't be the case as well.
It would be,
That building is kind of a state-of-the-art building, so I'm not sure that's what Homeland Security is looking for. But, you never know. We haven't gotten any kind of further information from them. They obviously signed a short-term agreement with the school bus company to house the buses in that lot.
when does that end? Do you know?
I'm not sure. And I don't know whether they have extensions or anything on it either. But I do know that from the bus company side, they were looking for a short-term agreement because they know that building's going to get occupied, and they're looking for a longer-term location for those buses.
Thank you.
You mentioned Amazon and the road work that they're looking to do. Any chance they want to kick in for a culvert?
They did,
They did?
they did.
They
Yeah,
did?
they did. They are on the hook for $200,000 at occupancy, which they're looking to do soon.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much for all that information.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thanks, Al.
This is page 48, 49, and 50.
Okay, that probably makes sense to hand them out. So we had some updated statistical data. I think there's some clerical issues in the statistical data, so Al's got the updated data. While he's passing that out, I'll just say very briefly, as consistent with planning and development, the building inspector and the Board of Appeals, the only changes are in personnel services. The only fiscal changes are in personnel services, and they're all contractual or COLAs or steps. As you can see, the remainder of the contractual services and materials and supplies are level funded for FY '27.
You gave me two.
Another one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Come on.
Thank you. So if I could, just a question on the numbers here on page 48. The third line, part-time/overtime, how much of that is part-time and how much of that is overtime? And what is overtime? Why do we need overtime in the building department?
So the part-time, I believe is for the trades inspectors?
Part-time, overtime?
Yeah.
All right, the overtime, there is really no overtime. It's all part-time. If someone comes in, maybe to assist, we got a new clerk, we might have someone sit there for a little bit of time
Yep.
to acclimate it to the system. There's really never overtime.
Okay, thank you.
Could we change that to contracted part-time and eliminate that question ongoing?
So, I'm sorry, I apologize. So change the line to,
Where it says part-time/overtime,
just change it to part-time?
just eliminate the overtime and put contracted part-time. So that will alert us that these are for, your inspectors, is that what you're saying it is?
Well, the contractual services, that, we have that for, if you have an alternate come in, all right?
Okay,
The part-time, there is no overtime,
right.
basically. It's
So let's
been there
get that out of
Been there
there.
for years.
We'll make that change.
My first thought, and Ally, really appreciate all this information, but as brilliant as we are, we can't possibly absorb this in front of you. So is there any chance that even if it's a day or two before the meeting, could you have these distributed via email to the Finance Committee?
So, basically, what this was for was to eliminate the questions about what was miscellaneous, what was this. So I just put it all out there, whatever a permit's issued for is on this here. So everybody will know that, what is what, as from having like 7 things, we have all of these.
Right, and there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we appreciate that. But it also gives us something to
Tell
look
the
through.
Yes, please.
So,
Great.
So this is saying in 2025, and now that I've got these numbers in front of me, you're gonna have to stop me from digging into them, but, so in 2025, which I assume is calendar 2025, or
This is fiscal year.
fiscal year, there were only 6 new single-family dwellings built in Wilmington?
Correct. A lot of single-family dwellings built this year.
I mean, is that saying we're built out in terms of, is that saying we're basically built out in terms of, as a community, in terms of land available for single-family dwellings? There isn't a new subdivision being, in the works somewhere, or I'm kind of curious. That's kind of a really
There are
starkly small number.
There are some subdivisions in the plan.
In the plan.
Planning right now.
That's,
But to be honest with you, I thought this was built out 10 years ago. These contractors,
keep
find
finding-
these little parcels.
They
and
keep finding these tiny little
do it.
parcels.
Yeah, I think the reality is, built out in Wilmington 10 years ago, it all depends on the value of the parcel. As the cost of, the more you can get for a house goes up, parcels that were not economically feasible all of a sudden become economically feasible, because instead of selling the house for $750,000, you can sell it for $1.2 million. And so that makes the costs, so the easy stuff is done. What's left is the harder stuff, and, that gets built out as the return on investment reaches the amount where reaching that tipping point. So, the subdivisions that are being built now are expensive subdivisions, but that's how they get built, is because they're gonna be expensive houses. And if those houses were gonna have sold for 500 grand apiece, that's why they didn't get built out 10 years ago, because it was gonna cost more than the return on investment would have been.
And then the other single-family dwellings that are being built are on tiny postage stamp little pieces of property that are on sewer.
They're
that may-
one-offs, yeah.
That may have, an old cottage on it down by the lake that they just tear down and build something new.
Or a family owns a large lot,
And there's
and they
subdivided.
decide they're gonna subdivide it, and suddenly there's an
give
extra
it-
lot
give
there,
some
they wanna make some retirement money on it. That's the typical way you get these runoffs.
Okay, any other questions for Al?
126, so that's residential, $19 million. Commercial, $126 million. Valuation, not valuation, yeah, valuation.
So I wanna make it very clear that the building code treats residential and commercial different than our tax rate does.
Right, no,
I know that you guys know, I just want to make it clear to the people at home that apartment buildings, for purposes of taxes, pay the residential rate, but for purposes of what you see on here, residential units can be part of the commercial valuation, because over 3 units is considered to be a commercial property, of residential units. But they still pay the residential tax rate. So that's a little bit, just so people know. That 107 million total commercial isn't an increase to our commercial tax base. Part of it's going to be an increase to our residential tax base.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You good, Al?
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Don't rise.
So we do have the town clerk, and I realized that I did the town clerk last Thursday night. We went through the town clerk's budget, but because it was on the calendar, I didn't want to skip it.
28.
So we can look at it again with that on page 28.
And thank her for 2 awesome town meetings. That was, you and John, you and the moderator deserve a lot of credit. Those were 2 massively complicated things that you pulled off.
Yeah, and that's, for different reasons, those 2 town meetings had different challenges. The one for the school was obviously the largest town meeting that we have in the history of Wilmington. And that had its own set of challenges because of that, and costs, as the FinCom knows, because I think we came to an earlier meeting and asked for some transfers. And the other town meeting was challenging because it was a petition town meeting that we didn't have, plans or schedule or budget for. So, Jonathan and Beth did amazing jobs with that. That being said, and here you can see, as we talked about a little earlier, the personnel services, those are all contractual or COLAs or increases. Underneath contractual services, there's a slight change in training and conferences and printing, advertising, and binding. The printing, advertising, and binding is a reflection of something we talked about earlier, which is printing costs are going up higher than I'd like to see, but they are increasing. And the training and conferences is, we brought on additional staff last year, and so in an effort to make sure that we can provide adequate training for the entire department, we did a slight increase to that line, so that folks we could provide adequate training for the entire staff. And then office supplies, that's just a kind of a minor change down there. Office supplies.
Yes,
And then-
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, I was just saying, their statistical page, type page 29. so.
I just had a question on early voting for the end of April election. Do you know when that will be available?
It will. I'm actually asking tomorrow, Monday night, I'm asking permission from the select board to have in person as well as mailed out ballots. We're required to do the mailed out ballots unless the select board vote to opt out of it. I've never seen a reason why we would opt out of it. The in-person is something I need permission from them.
Okay.
And I'm only doing it at my counter, so there wouldn't be any additional costs for personnel in overtime. I don't usually get a high volume for a local.
When would that start to be available?
I don't have the dates off the top of my head.
I was
It was
about to say, I
the
don't remember the
17th.
dates. Yeah, it's like
It's
the week before.
I have to stop 5 days before the election. So it would be the week before that. It would be regular business hours, and we're open till 7 on Tuesday, so it will give them an opportunity after work to vote.
Okay, so it's only for 1 week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to
Any
run
other
the other two
questions?
budgets? The registrars and the,
We already did this.
oh, okay,
We did this as part of general government.
okay. Any questions? No?
No, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Now we have,
IT,
oh, there's two.
page 23, capital, page 76.
Teresa,
Page
you're on-
Yes,
22.
22.
Teresa, you're on fire today.
Thank you. I have to keep myself organized, so I might as well pull you all into it.
So, we're here to talk about IT. I'll talk very briefly about it, and then I know we're going to talk specifically with John about the miscellaneous contractual services change, and then the materials and supplies, and then the capital plan. But generally speaking, for personnel services, this is just contractual and COLAs. This does include the application specialist for Munis that has been, was also in last year's budget. So that encompasses personnel services, but other than that, there's no significant changes. As you can see, for purposes of office supplies and materials and supplies and training and conferences, there have been some slight changes. Part of that is involved with, taking on an entire new building. Want to make sure that we have sufficient budget for all of the incidentals that come with 2 functioning AV rooms and all the technology that exists in this wonderful building that we're in today. But there is a significant change in miscellaneous contractual services and in material supplies, and so I'm going to turn that over to John to discuss.
So before you do that, so we could expect materials and supplies, because it's kind of something, the increases associated partly with just having the move-in here and things we need to get to finish off or to get it to our liking. That number hopefully will go back down in FY '28.
So I'll let John kind of discuss that.
Sure. As far as the materials and supplies, we're seeing more costs of whether it's peripherals, such as like flash drives, stuff for the building, such as mouse pads, just some of the things you just wouldn't think of is sort of getting into the new building. I hope that can come back down, that 5,000 to back down to 2,000. But things are getting.
More about furnishings and equipment.
The furnishings and equipment. That is directly related to, there is right now a shortage of memory and GPU processors for computer equipment. My vendors right now are giving me quotes for 2 weeks and saying that there are going to be pricing and supply shortages consistent with what happened with COVID because of the AI boom and building out all these data centers. Part of that increase as well is we're using more computers both at the PD, and while we're adding part-time positions and other positions, I need to accommodate for that equipment as well.
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit about the miscellaneous contractual services, since there's a couple of different drivers to that one.
Sure. One of the big things to understand with the IT budget is it's a general government budget. This is technology and software for the majority of departments. So when we're talking about the increases of miscellaneous contractual, we're talking about increases of enterprise software, increases for police, fire, and dispatch record software. It's all the contractual increases across all our software platforms built into this budget here. We did sort of save some money moving legacy systems into Munis, but those savings were quickly made up in different needs that we need for FY '27. One of sort of the drivers for this particular budget is digital equity. We have a digital equity. We have a federal Title II requirement that basically anything we produce electronically, whether it's internally or externally, has to meet ADA compliance with certain digital requirements set by the federal government. We have by April 2027 to achieve that. And some of the software, for instance, we're going to be spending an additional $30,000 in Adobe software in this coming fiscal year to make sure that clerks in every department have publishing software that will do the accessibility requirement checks for all of our electronic documentation. Unfortunately, grants such as the IT Community Compact grant up to $250,000. Disability grants are not available to us because of the MBTA compliance.
Can I ask a quick question on that? So,
Sure.
are you talking about Adobe Pro? Is that what you?
I am.
You are, okay. Is that going to be, there's a lot of talk these days about seat-based licensing versus usage, or?
This is particularly licensed through seat-based.
Seat-based?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So I want to make sure I understood what you said about, so traditionally, something like this, something like the upgrade to the Adobe Pro, there are state grants that we could have applied for, may not have received, but are not eligible for this year unless and until we become compliant with the MBTA Community Act.
Yeah, community compact grants are often used for things like John is talking about, which is needed IT infrastructure or software upgrades. And they're usually, they're not super competitive. They're funded to provide a lot of municipalities a smaller bucket of money, but that still could be up to a couple $100,000. And we're not, those are one of those, again, one of those grants that has the prerequisite to be MBTA zone compliant.
I hope somebody's keeping a list of this stuff.
We are keeping, well, as I mentioned, we're keeping a list of the ones that we knew we were gonna get and kind of.
Yep.
It's harder to maintain lists of ones that we might have applied to, but because at a certain point in time, we don't even do the work.
No, I understand that, but I think it's important.
Sure.
To understand the fiscal implications of the decisions that town meeting has made. I think that's part of our responsibility, to ensure that continues to stay, at the forefront of our thinking. That would help the select board in determining any strategies they may have forthcoming, but I just think it's important to continue to follow that.
We certainly are keeping it.
$30,000 for Adobe Pro, is that's a part-time clerk.
it's not an insignificant amount of money, especially when you think about all the different ways that we could use IT infrastructure money that the community compact's kind of.
Yeah, thank you.
And then you look at the school, when you talk about the hundreds of $1,000s on the school side and the water department lost out on a couple $100,000. At the end of the day, that's real money.
Do you want to speak to your capital items?
Sure.
Page 76.
So this year, for capital, I am requesting a wireless refresh. As part of this new town hall project, we incorporated a new Wi-Fi system with a Cisco Meraki system for this particular project. The $75,000 is for approximately, it's 30 more access points for the rest of our buildings, including public safety, the library, the new senior center, DPW, and other municipal buildings. I should preface that by saying we haven't had a Wi-Fi refresh for the 10 years I've been here. Been fortunate enough to extend that system up until this project. The $120,000 for...
Sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
So is that like similar to maybe PCs? Is that like on a rotating basis where you're going to?
It is, but depending on technology, I think a lot of times too, with access points, we can get a lot more of a hardware cycle, a few more years than the sort of the 3 to 5 year range of PCs. I think, like for instance, the previous system we've had, I don't think we were really, I guess, in a spot where we needed to upgrade at any point. I always felt that we could push it out for what we were seeing for performance. Yep. For the server refresh, this is 7 years out now that since we last replaced our servers. The $120,000 is for 4 production servers that run the data centers for both our town and PD. These are separate data centers, but that cost will accommodate all of these.
These are storage servers. This is data storage.
These attach to data storage. I also just want to point out that, whether it's insurance or going through Standard & Poor's for our bond rating, one of the things they do look at is IT and cybersecurity and how we're protecting our data, our accounts, and whether we've had any incidents. I think it's important to note.
Which you brought us into compliance a few years ago. So,
How are we doing as far as protection?
Yeah.
There's new stuff every day.
So-
You're at front lines, right? We've had this, you and I have had this discussion before.
Sure.
I just want to bring that up because that's a constantly evolving landscape for you that you need to stay up to date on.
Yeah, in one of the issues right now is obviously with AI and what AI can do. What they're seeing now is viruses that can evolve in real time, so they'll access your system, and whether they're using AI components to avoid detection. But at the same time, you're having this other side of sort of the cybersecurity war with these antivirus companies who are also using AI to then, battle back and try to detect these issues and viruses. It's a huge issue. We are constantly looking for different ways we can protect ourselves, and it's never enough. It's never enough.
I had a few questions, if it's okay.
yeah, sure.
Around the access point refresh.
Yes.
You had mentioned that this is for the rest of the buildings.
It is.
So have we refreshed some or most of the buildings?
So this is for everything except for the schools. This new town hall is, this was refreshed as part of the project, and then we're bringing these other buildings into the system.
Okay. And you had mentioned that the lifespan of these access points is longer than your typical lifespan, but is it outside the realm of feasibility that at some point in the next 5 fiscal years, you'd have to refresh the old ones again?
So I would say 5 years, no. They basically just introduced Wi-Fi 6 and 7 technology. These Meraki access points that are in this building incorporate those. I don't believe there'll be new wireless technology in 5 years that would sort of prompt us to then go and refresh these buildings sooner.
Gotcha. As far as the legacy software that got incorporated into Munis?
Yes.
Do we still have any of that legacy software we're hanging out that we're still paying for?
So none that we're still paying for after this fiscal year. We still have backups of those servers that we're ready to spin up in case, we need to look at an old report or whatnot. But we're not paying for any of those services as support after this fiscal year.
Gotcha. Last question around if that's okay?
Sure.
Around the ADA compliance.
Yes.
So presumably the Adobe Pro will get us into full compliance. It's $30K. Is
The-
there like a fee? Well, first question, does it get us into full compliance? And the second question is, where do we foresee this falling into the budget future state as far as any licenses we would have to take out?
All excellent questions. So the Adobe software, it doesn't get us into compliance. It's a software platform that will allow us to check our documents and then make them into compliance, produce them into compliance. It will be an ongoing, perpetual need for us. I imagine that after this first year where we're working through the different digital equity components through the different departments, it's my hope that maybe we could scale back those licenses and maybe there's sort of a more streamlined approach to getting some of these documents to that final state. But for right now, I can't say for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Anybody else?
So is the plan to, we have to probably go back and make prior documents. So I would assume the plan would be to produce documents that are ADA compliant, because those will probably have the highest demand and usage and access. And then kind of do some thoughtful access going backwards.
And a lot of it is considering, building out these templates in a more ADA compliant format too. So, whether you're producing an agenda or something that you have that template that you make a couple of edits and it's already very close to that compliance standpoint.
Fascinating.
Is it?
I'm sorry, just before John goes, I do want to give a lot of credit to John and his staff for how well the move to this building has worked out. When we initially talked about moving from Town Hall and the Roman House and various other buildings into this building, I was thinking about it as maybe a week, maybe more than a week, maybe multiple weeks. And John convinced me that from the IT side, they could handle it in 3 days. And they were done in 2. And I didn't think that I thought people were going to be working over the weekend, and instead, all of our department heads had phones and email available by the end of the second day of the move, and most of them were before that. That's when they finished. So, the moving company was amazing, and they got all our things here really quickly, but it wouldn't have mattered if we couldn't do the business on our computers and our phones to service the customers. And I really think that John and his team kind of really stepped up, and it was very impressive how smooth that move was from the IT standpoint to come into a brand new building and be able to just start off running. So I really want to give him a lot of credit for that.
Thank you very much, John.
Thanks,
You
John.
always do a great job. Your support team is amazing and always so willing to help everybody out. I cannot imagine how difficult this task was.
Thank you. Teresa, I know I've spoken to you. My staff does a tremendous job across the board, even, you guys allowed me to add a new staff member 2 years ago, Michelle. She's been phenomenal. Staff member Andrew is phenomenal. Sue's phenomenal. I have a lot of support, and it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
And, you know, I'd note that a lot of times when you're moving into buildings, the cost of transitioning the IT is done by a vendor and included in the cost of the building. And here, it was done.
John made it very clear that he did not want anybody else to touch our stuff.
Well, and that's, but you also have to be able to back that up by being able to do the work.
Right.
And that's not only a savings on the cost of this building and not having to have that extra vendor kind of doing that work, and it's something that also can't be overlooked, the cost savings involved in doing that in-house. It is not usual in the municipal side for an IT department to move a municipal building.
I didn't know that.
No.
So, and by the way, the rest of the town didn't shut down. The police department, the fire department, they were still operational and needed support from the IT team while they were doing all this. So it wasn't like we put them in a silo and told them the only thing they had to do was just move this building. They were still expected to manage the tickets from everybody else, and they did a fantastic job, so.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Slagle, would it be okay with you if we took a 10-minute break before we
That makes a lot of
start with
sense.
public safety? So I'll take a motion.
Motion
break for
to
10
break
minutes?
for 10 minutes?
Second, motion, second, any conversation? All those in favor? We'll meet back here in 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. If I could have a motion to resume the meeting, please.
Motion to resume the meeting?
Second?
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. And we're back. Welcome, Chief.
Good morning, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, we're excited.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So we're here to discuss the first of our two large public safety departments for the day, which is the police department. As you mentioned, it is on page 32. So if you want to take a look at the changes year over year from police, the bulk of the increase exists within the personnel services. So those are both contractual increases, both COLA and steps year over year, and also increases that were not fully captured from the last collective bargaining agreement that went into effect in FY26. So there's some catch up between FY26 and FY27. I realize there may be some questions about personnel services, but I do want to mention, as you notice, for contractual services, there's actually a decrease year over year in contractual services from the police, and then that's offset by a slight increase in under the uniform section of materials and supplies, but again, another slight decrease in the small tools and equipment section under materials and supplies. And then furnishings and equipment, again, a very, very small increase in furnishings and equipment. So the bulk of this is driven by the collective bargaining agreements that between the not just the patrol, but also the supervisors that have gone into effect since the last time we had to evaluate a budget. So that's page 32. Are there any questions about?
One question here.
John?
So under the part-time personnel services, it looks like it's gone up. There's an asterisk next to it in the book, but it's not referring to any note.
Yeah, so I apologize about that. There's supposed to be a note there, and that's my fault. This is not an increase in part-time personnel services. This is two crossing guards that were previously funded out of a different line, but were not counted as part-time personnel. So that change also exists in the FTE. These are not new positions. These are positions that were funded in prior fiscal years as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Chief. For staff, how are we doing? Are we fully staffed right now? Are we down positions?
So as far as staff goes, first of all, it's very important, and we thank you for the contractual increases. This is about the most competitive environment in law enforcement that I have seen in our career. I equate it to kind of like free agency when Major League Baseball had those big cases and you saw those escalation of contracts. The mobility for police officers, it's significant. So the competition, and so for us, having a competitive wage, excellent equipment keeps us, a desirable location. So to answer your question, so last January, when we put 3 officers in the academy, we were at 52 officers for a few weeks. Pat Nally retired in February. Detective Lieutenant Fiore retired in, I believe it was early April. We had an officer who was with us for 2 years, decided law enforcement might not have been his path. He chose another career, and then we saw the retirement of Chief Desmond and Detective Posey. This year, we put 3 people in the academy in January who started early January. We expect them to graduate in June of '26, and we hope that they will be full manpower, fully trained sometime around mid to late September. So right now, we are at 50 out of our 52 slots. We just sought a process to hire more. We've got some candidates that we're going to be vetting, interviewing. If we can successfully fill those 2 slots, there's an academy in July of this year that we will hope to get those officers into that academy, which hopefully would be up to 52. Taking kind of what's going on in the building and what I have knowledge of, I don't anticipate retirements at FY '28. I do anticipate significant retirements in FY '29, but I think if we're able to hire these 2, get them into the academy, we'll be stable for a little bit. So that will hopefully bring us up to full staff, and if things go to plan and there's no unexpected retirements or departures. But as far as retention goes, we've done a really good job. What we've lost has been through retirements. We did have, like I said, the one officer decided law enforcement wasn't necessarily for him, but we've done a good job of retaining the officers that we've hired over the last few years.
Thank you.
So you have 3 in the academy currently.
That's correct.
So how many do you physically have right now?
So in the building, right now, we have 47 officers.
47, okay. And you're expecting 3 in June, and you're also interviewing for 2 more?
Yes, we expect these officers to graduate in June. They'll go into their 12-week field training, so they'll be officially manpower in, like I said, hopefully late September. And an idea of how long it takes to hire, that test came out June 1st. We were able to interview people last summer between background investigations, fitness tests, physical evaluations, and academies open up. It takes that long to get somebody into the academy.
Okay, thank you.
Are those folks on our payroll while that's happening?
Yes, they are paid. They're town of
They're
Wilmington
hired,
employees.
then they go to an academy.
Yes.
Then they go on it sounds like 3-month training, in-town training with a training officer and a partner or whatever, and then after that, so that's 9 months of.
Yes.
Wow, that's, I mean, understandable. I mean, you want your officers to be well-trained, to be able to respond safely and efficiently to these important calls, but that's, I'm sure that is not well-known in the community, just how long you hire a school teacher, they can start the next day.
Yeah, no, it's a significant training cycle, which is an industry standard. Our field training, we have great field training officers. Lieutenant Delory here leads the field training program. And, to get them to the point where, and it wasn't always this way. Certainly, I didn't go through a field training program 27 years ago. I'm not saying that was I think we do it better now. But at least I actually had trained him before I did go on the road alone, whereas my predecessors, Chief Desmond probably, went on to the road by himself before, here kid, here's a, but so it's a lot more standardized, a lot more professional, but that lead time is significant. It's a huge investment that we put into these officers.
So in that regard then, if we have negotiated a competitive pay rates, are there ever occurrences where officers transfer from one community to another and then therefore could probably be independent in our community without a 9-month waiting period?
And prior to the, I don't know if you want to speak to it, but prior to the 3 officers that we hired in January of 25, prior to that, we went through a period where we were hiring officers that had experience, that had academies, so we did not have to send them to police academies. So we went, it was probably about, I would say at least 4 or 5, like a streak, and that kind of dried up a little bit, and now we're.
Yeah, your market is, every time you open Facebook, you see another community trying to hire police officers. We're all in the same boat here.
I was just going to say, one thing that we talked about, that the chief and I, is there's an opportunity through civil service for us to have a hybrid program where it does allow us to bring in lateral transfers. And so we're working, that agreement with civil service is currently with town council, they're reviewing it, so that might be an opportunity in the future for us to kind of bring in more lateral employees that don't require the training.
The good news is they can go to the streets faster. The bad news is their starting salary, it's like hiring a teacher with 5 years' experience. You've got to pay them for that experience.
Yeah, and just to that point, and I'm not sure how it'll vet out, but we did, just last week, we received a cold call from an officer who was interested in the community, fully trained. So there are, people do see us, our activity, and kind of reach out to us.
Do you have a question? Yeah. We'll get going there right now. All right, are we ready to move on to capital? Page 74 in your budget book. Starting on page 79 in your capital book. If you have some new and exciting things coming up. We're not going to talk about it too much today because they don't pertain to this budget year, but I'm wondering if the police cruiser cameras and the body-worn cameras are one of the items that's attractive to people coming to Wilmington? Or is it pretty much everybody has it now?
So it's definitely one of those things. Not everybody has it. I want to say of the surrounding communities, I know of at least maybe 2 that have them right now. Billerica and Burlington, I know for certain have them. I know the state police have them. But it is one of those things that, yes, that is going to be a standard piece of equipment throughout the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was kind of later in the game in adopting the body cameras, some initial resistance, but you really can't beat the perspective it gives, the accountability. If something goes wrong, just having that piece of evidence that we can review and we can show the public.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that's becoming a standard here in the Commonwealth.
Right. Well, it protects everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think one of the interesting things about body cameras is the data has shown, since they've been implemented on a more regular basis, is that it actually reduces the use of force complaints that you get. It kind of reduces those the claims against the municipality for potential misconduct. So it protects the officers in that way, so there's a less chance of kind of those false complaints coming in.
Do you, would they say if they're speaking with somebody, I am wearing a camera?
So you'll be able to notice it visibly, but yes, that will be part of the training is,
Okay.
Especially the inter-house, but yes, I wearing a body camera when
Right.
they introduce themselves, to make them fully aware
Right.
that camera does exist. Visually, it's not really hidden, it's kind of prominent,
Mm-hmm.
but they will, in the policies, that's part of the training.
I would imagine that might stop a little bit of aggression or incooperativeness if they know that they're being filmed.
Absolutely, for those who are inclined
Yeah.
to cooperate, it may de-escalate them quicker.
Right.
Some of the people who are spiraling that we deal with, there's really not, that may not be it, but absolutely, I think for other people that are aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just real quick, just to discuss this, so the first capital outlay is the new duty weapons, so that's $90,000 for new firearms. We kind of broadcast that this was coming down the pipe. This has been the PD's moving to a new firearm that has the red dot sights, so and is a more modern weapon. So that is the main, the first capital item. The second is the taser replacement. So we talked about this last year. Last year was the first year of the taser replacement, so this is just the continuing taser replacement capital plan from last year. The third is the cruisers, and I know there's some questions, but I did want to let folks know that There was a change that was made in this capital item after it was printed that reduced the number of line cruisers by one. So we had previously asked for 3 line cruisers, a traffic vehicle, and a pickup truck that was going to make another vehicle available for the ACO. And now it's going to be 2 line cruisers and those 2 other vehicles. How much was that reduction? I apologize.
So the reduction is $50,000. Obviously, we don't want to get in the business of reducing things because of insurance claims. But since the initial capital request in December, one of our cruisers responded to a call, was struck by a vehicle making a left-hand turn on Lowell Street into a business. And once the insurance settlement, that was one of the cruisers that was going to be replaced. So that helped us reduce this request.
Somebody else's insurance gets to pay for it.
So just to be clear, we got 3 frontline cruises that we're getting this year, right?
2.
2,
There were 3, we're reducing it to 2.
okay. And then a new animal control car?
No. So the animal control car, right now, in your green book, I believe it's, 14? No, the pickup truck, what number is that? Is that 40? No, pickup truck is.
Page 15.
So 14 is being replaced by our F-150.
Okay. And you have to modify that F-150 for
Yes.
him?
So we're gonna modify that F-150 and replace that with the ACO vehicle.
Okay.
And we're gonna try to retrofit some of the equipment, but other equipment is gonna have to be replaced. And then the request would be for another pickup truck. We have our trailer, which is kind of a community police and incident command trailer, that this will allow us to pull around. We have other opportunities where we're moving equipment, light towers for the 4th of July, the Fun of the 4th celebration, crash, incidences where we need light on scene. We'll be more self-sufficient, won't have to rely on the DPW. This new vehicle, I would equate as at least a 10-year vehicle. That it's not gonna get as many miles, kind of more similar to, I believe, our 42, which is our box truck, which was purchased in 2012, and we still use that for training, and it's in great condition. DPW has done a great job on it, and that's kind of, this vehicle would equate to something similar to that. It would be at least a 10-year vehicle. It's not gonna be out on regular patrol, pursuits, anything like that. More of us to move this command center around. We want to deploy it a little more frequently into the community. If there's an incident that occurs, we want to be able to deploy that, so.
What do you plan on doing with the animal control car once you retrofit the new pickup truck? Is that gonna go into our inventory? Is it usable, DPW, or?
So it's gonna go to the DPW. I don't know if they can use that, if they have plans. It's got about 140,000 miles on it?
It's pretty much running to the ground. It has a lift gate on it. DPW, it's gonna go to the inventory, whether it's gonna be auctioned, or are they gonna use it for, during the summer when they have extra help in for the ground and stuff. I don't know what they would do, but it would go to them, and it would be up to them if they're gonna use it or just have it auctioned. But it's got 137,000.
What does the F-150 that you're gonna retrofit have for mileage? 11,000.
And that's it's pursuit rated, not that he's gonna gain any pursuits, but it's got the heavy duty suspension, the heavy duty brakes. His last truck he got, close to 10 years out,
Yeah.
he'll get at least that out of this. And it's built for last.
And that vehicle is car 40.
Car 40, okay.
Car 40 is the pickup truck.
Just a quick question on the tasers. Have you received the new tasers as of yet?
So, yes, we have received them. Last month, the training division, they are 100% online. trained division, trained everybody within the department. They've been issued, and they are fully operational. They're deployed into the field now. Fortunately, we haven't had to use them or anything, but they are in the field. Every officer in the building has been trained, and we have that equipment on that.
And Exxon met their goal as far as?
Axon has been really, I know there was some early issues, but they've been excellent to work with, especially on this project.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for answering the questions about the cruiser replacement that I had sent you. I was trying to follow along, and it's where we change all the numbers. It kind of gets a little confusing, but it seems like we're replacing P16 as one of the replacements. I just want to be sure that's one, because in the Green Book, it says it's slated for 2028 replacement, and I was just wondering if we have a reason for why we'd be moving that one up a year?
So, P60, just looking at it on my thing here. I know that's the health and recovery unit vehicle that we use, that has, so right now it has about 85,000 miles on it. So the problem that we find is that by the time we have an actual cruiser to replace that, given the length of time, that's gonna be closer to 95, 100,000 miles on it. At which point, we're concerned about its reliability. But purchasing cruisers, it takes us at least, we're still haven't recovered from, COVID. It takes us at least 6 months. And then we send it off to get the vehicle retrofitted. If that's another car, a line car is gonna have to be stripped out so that we can build this car. That unfortunately is probably another 2 to 3 months. So if town meeting, July 1st, we probably wouldn't see that until May of next year. So by that time, those miles would build up on it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Another question.
I had one. In regards to the new duty weapons, would this allow for a replacement of every weapon for every, I'm trying to figure out how many weapons would go into inventory that are net new with the red dot and
So yes, this will replace all of our firearms.
every single one in your
Every
inventory.
we have, yes, yes.
Do you have I mean, there's 52 officers, right, so do you have backups? Like, how much of that goes into inventory in case you need?
Yes, we will have significant backups.
Okay.
We were discussing this the other day, especially in light of the situation in Spencer. If there's a shoot-in, that gun is gonna be taken.
Right.
So we need to replace. If there's malfunctions, that would also have to be taken off the line. So we do have, yes, extra supply.
Can I make one comment on tasers?
Please.
If that's right. I know it came up last year. So just for everyone, I think to sort of wrap your head around the taser, 30 grand a year, right? Divided by 50 officers, that's about $600 per officer per year, or less than $2 a day, right, for tasers, to do what the tasers do for right? I think that's well worth it when you really get down to it. I'm just repeating myself. I know, I'm sorry for those of you, who are hearing me again, but I know the questions come up in the past, like how much do we use it, and that's really not what the intent is. The intent is to use non-lethal force, I believe, and that's something that's achieved with the tasers, right? So, just wanted to point that out.
No, definitely, we appreciate the community support. Since 2017, I know there's some chiefs still looking for tasers, but we appreciate the support in 2017. We appreciate the support last year, helping us transition to the new ones. Lieutenant Delori and Lieutenant Stavro put together an informational video on our social media this week that kind of really lays out, how we use them, de-escalation, and so they did a really good job with it, but I would encourage, if you haven't seen that, to take a look at it. So, thank you very much.
So can I just ask, is the 385 now 335?
Yes.
I just want to, in all this, I want to make sure I understood that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I
Questions?
have a question. So I know we had a tragic event months ago, and we lost our dog. And I hope Samantha is all healed up and back. Do we have anything going forward that we might be looking to replace the dog? Or are we taking a step back?
So I think we're in the process of taking the step back, but I did include money in this budget for a therapy comfort dog. There are, I've been approached from some organizations in the community. I know there are some other organizations throughout the state that might be offering grants for dogs that I want to kind of look at those. But I would like to, get that back up and running at some point. So we're kind of in that process right now where, kind of see what that's going to look like for the department. But I do want to explore those avenues, yes.
And we're also pursuing that through insurance, because we're pursuing that through insurance. The accident was not the fault of Samantha.
Right.
So there's another insurance company, and that's not just an emotional loss, but a real loss in an asset for the police department. So we are pursuing that as well.
Sorry for the loss, because I know
Yeah, no,
a
thanks.
dog is
Yeah.
very important to the.
Yeah, no, thank you. She was, way too young. And, it was a terrible circumstance, just very unfortunate. But thank you, and, yes, we'll certainly send Samantha.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Comfort therapy dogs are great assigned to SROs.
And that's part of our discussion, absolutely, that we're,
That's
yes.
school resource officers, it's a great way to break that barrier sometime and really connect the kids who sometimes need that connection to an SRO.
So if there are no other questions for the chief,
Excellent.
thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Once again,
folks.
we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Go Pats.
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
That was tragic.
Yeah. Dispatch first, then fire?
Yeah, I'll ask him if
I told you. That's what she was going to do. There we go.
Welcome, chief.
Good morning. How are
Would
we?
you like to do dispatch first?
I'm here for you, so whatever you want to do.
Then we're doing dispatch.
Right there.
Police basically ran out of
Page
money after the
36.
police department.
I noticed.
Yeah, 36, right?
Yep.
So, in discussions for dispatch, you'll see there's a considerable increase in the personnel services. As part of the last collective bargaining negotiations with the union, the dispatchers union, both the union and the town realized when doing our comparable studies that Wilmington was lagging behind in our pay for our dispatchers. And that was reflected in the fact that ever since I started, which is in June of 2024, we have not taken down the posting for a dispatcher. It's been up since I started, and it's still up. So keeping the dispatch fully staffed has been a constant challenge, not just for Wilmington. I think it's a challenge across the state, but it's a profession with a high level of burnout, and it's very challenging, and it's become very competitive with respect to salaries. So there was not just a standard COLA as a part of the last collective bargaining agreement. There was a structural change where we added some extra money to the salaries in order to try to make us more competitive with our surrounding competing towns. In addition, you'll see a significant change under the stipends line. as part of that last collective bargaining agreement, we added new stipend positions of, what's it called? Yes, dispatch training specialists. So those are individuals that are within the dispatch union who are chosen by the chief to be the training specialists. Because we have such a influx of new bodies into there's training going on in that unit almost all the time with new staff members. And so this provides a stipended position that has sole function over that training and reporting that has to go into those new, those training of those new positions. You know, the paid holidays, the overtime, those were kind of kept under control. You'll note that the night differential increased. That is also a reflection of the underlying structural change that we made to the cost of those dispatchers. Training and conference and miscellaneous contractual services, you notice the training and conference went down and the miscellaneous contractual services went up, so that the contractual services are kind of a wash. And then there's just a slight increase in the uniforms. That's just a kind of a cost of living. We'd been stagnant for a little while, so we changed that total. So that's the kind of the underlying realities of dispatch right now. I wish I could say that the town solved all its issues. I mean, I think we're doing okay right now, but the reason why that position never gets taken down is because there is a constant churn at the entry level of these. People get in, realize it's not for them. They don't like the overnights. They don't like the long hours. They don't like the stress. They didn't realize what they were getting into, and so we just have to be prepared and understand that that's a part of the dispatch's reality.
Tough job.
How many, so we have budgeted for 13, how many dispatchers do we have currently?
Currently, we have 11 full staff. We have 1 in training, and I'm actually, 10 a.m. on Thursday, I have an interview for that 13th spot. So hoping that candidate will work out. We'll see. What we've done in the last probably 3 years is when we do an interview, before we do an offer, we ask them to come in at some point and sit for 2, 3, 4 hours in the room with the dispatchers, ask questions, see how they work, understand what they're kind of, get a 1,000-foot view of what they're getting into and know the job before they accept it. So we'll be doing that as well with this person. So we have 1 complete vacancy and we have 1 in training. So if the training person makes it through, which I feel like he will, he's a very bright young man, I think he'll work out well in there. That'll put us at 12, and then this person, if they work out, will fill us out.
How long's the training period?
So typically, the academy that they would go through is about 5 weeks, and then they go on to a training, much like the police do, where they sit with a dispatch training specialist, and it could be as short as 3 months at that point. It could be 4 or 5. It just depends on the person, how well they're picking things up, and how well they're moving through everything. But typically, we see them about 5 months total, and then they're either on their own or we're kind of give them the idea that this is probably not for them.
And is the overtime budget highly related to these openings, or is this?
Yeah, so.
I mean, do you feel like vacations with overtime, or
No,
is this just due to vacant positions?
Most of the overtime that you're seeing in this is due to all the vacancies that we've had over the last number of years. Like, we've been honestly running at 9 or 10 and been filling shifts all the time. Just ahead of this meeting, we're running pretty well on overtime right now. If we keep up the same kind of pace and average, I see you looking at me. I know it. I'm taking your thunder right now. If we keep up the same pace and average, we're going to finish with a surplus of about $27,500. So I'm hoping if we fill out these 2 positions and they're good, we're going to continue to watch that overtime. And if it starts to obviously reduce, then next year you're going to see a reduction in overtime. Don't quote me, Mary Ann. If it all works out, you're going to see a reduction in it. But, that's as long as it fills out, because what this does for us is it staffs the day shift and the middle shift to 3 a shift, and we don't fill the first vacancy. So we run to 2, so we don't fill that first one out. So it works out, and then if we have storm coverage or something like that, I'm not putting an extra person in there, there's already somebody there. So it's giving us that buffer that we're looking for to help reduce the overtime burden on the department.
So right now, the overtime account, I think through the end of January, is at 81,000 expended. So that does put us at about in the 130s. If we go through that for the rest of the year. So we're on track to be
In a good spot.
I mean, again, I think the reclassification of through the CBA to adjust salaries is important, that we pay a fair and equitable wage. And hopefully that allows us to attract and retain, a quality staff that would then give us a savings in the overtime area.
Yep.
And that's the exact thought
And
process.
that, I assume that's when the Board of Selectmen ratified this CBA, that's kind of was behind their thinking, but as they make these adjustments, we do need to pay fair and equitable wages to these staff. And these, I can only imagine the stress involved in these positions. Do they dispatch DPW as well, or just police fire?
So, bless you. So, the history behind this was it used to be police and firefighters, and when they came into the public safety building, there was kind of police, kind of firefighters, but that's when they first opened a civilian side of it, and it's become all civilian. It was police, fire, EMS. What they do now, though, just with kind of the evolution of everything, really. I mean, they have the DPW on the radio, so that whole radio project we did a few years ago in the dispatch remodeling, we added DPW onto their radio system, so they're not actively dispatching, so to speak. Like, the police will call in, hey, it's getting slippery out here, give a call to DPW, they do that call, hey, there's a tree down the roadway, and they'll send a police officer out to explore that, and if they confirm it and we need to call a tree department, they call that. So they are really kind of the center of it all. But they also have the schools on their radios. So there's a channel for the schools. If there is some sort of emergency there, that'll light up. They can get on. They can be direct with the schools and what's going on there, and they can relay over to the PD and fire what's happening. So if we have that really bad situation that we all hope we never have, but always have to be prepared for, we don't have to worry about cell phone coverage or any of that. It's all the schools. We did that as part of that radio project. We had some money left over. I went in and put repeaters in all the schools, so the schools can all get out. They have their own channels, so they can all talk to themselves. Then they have channels so they can talk to each other, and they have an outside channel where they can call dispatch in a no-kidding emergency and get direct to a live dispatcher, no delays. So they really do have everything in there. I know we call them public safety dispatch. They are like kind of all in on everything.
Thank you.
Yep.
And listen to the scanner, very professional, good batch of
They better be.
dispatches.
They better be.
They are.
I appreciate that. They are. And honestly, I know I say it kind of every year, but most of the dispatchers we have been with us for a while. They do see that the town is, even when they do kind of fall behind, because as bargaining goes on, they're in a cycle, but someone else isn't, and then someone else is, and they're not. So it's that constant game of catch up or try to stay in the hunt. And they do see that the town is always willing to work with them to kind of get them in that competitive range. So, they are very good. We have very good dispatchers, so.
Okay, shall we move along to regular fire?
The regular fire department on page 34. So there's the bulk of the increase in fire is encapsulated in the personnel services. These are COLA, step, and contractual increases. You'll see that notwithstanding the increases on the kind of the staff side, we're level funding overtime, level funding trading overtime, level funding holidays. There's an increase in educational incentive pay as leftover from the last collective bargaining agreement to catch that up. But the non-salary parts of personnel services, we did our best to level fund. For purposes of contractual services, that is level funded. For purposes of materials and supplies, that is level funded. And then there's as you can see, there's an add-on for furnishings and equipment. I'll let the chief discuss that specific line.
So that line there is for a power load stretcher and power load system for what is going to be A1, which should be here next year, and I'll get to that. Mr. Neville had asked some questions about that, so I'll get to that a little bit more in depth when he has his opportunity to ask. I do want to point out, though, that the manager is correct in that we level funded miscellaneous contractual, and it appears as though we went up in emergency management. I'd just like to point out that last year, we did make a lateral move from our miscellaneous contractual to the education. It just didn't make it into the book. So those numbers, if you go back another year, you'll see that switch out of miscellaneous contractual, and it just got dropped right into education. So it was kind of more of a lateral move than an increase. Even though it shows it here, it wasn't.
Can you go through an analysis of the number of firefighters you have? You are budgeted for 48. You have any out on sick leave?
So, yeah, I have one gentleman who's still out. He was on military, and he had an injury while he was out on military. Last one I got for him was for July. Bless you. I'm hoping to see him come back in July. But he's been out about 2 years, and we're kind of at the mercy of the military on that. They do their thing, and they move extremely slow when it comes to things like that. So he's been out for a bit. I do have one firefighter who was injured in the ambulance accident back in October. He wound up having to undergo surgery. I'm hoping he's going to follow up in April, so we'll have more news on him in April as to what the prognosis is and things of that nature. And then I have one that's out a little shorter term. He got injured on a ski trip last weekend, so I got a couple of weeks with him anyway, maybe 2 months, and then I'm hoping to see him back.
Is that it?
That's it. I have everything else. All of our spots are filled. We just
Wow.
have a couple of injuries, so that's seems like we can't ever get out of that rut and get everybody here and healthy, but we're doing our best.
Well, it's going a little bit better.
It is.
seems.
It is. I mean, because a couple of years ago, we were sitting here with you guys saying, hey, we're constantly hiring, constantly trying to work people through the academy,
Right.
filling vacancies. I mean, the overtime was at about $1.4 million. So it is working out well. Like I said, we had a little bit of a rough run the last quarter of the year with the ambulance accident and this other firefighter who got hurt skiing. But other than that, we actually have done pretty well as far as keeping people healthy and keeping them working.
Do you anticipate any retirements in the next year or two?
One. So Captain Ryan just put in his intent to retire next February. So that'll be in there.
So you were running with 2 out mostly the whole year?
I was running with 1 out for most of the year, and then October, so the last quarter, I had 2, the military and the ambulance accident, and now I have 3. But I like I said, that third one is likely going to be short-term. A younger firefighter, he messed his wrist up skiing, so hoping for good news on next week when he goes and gets a follow-up. Make sure nothing shifted. If nothing shifted, they told him 6 to 8 weeks, he'll be back, so.
And that kind of good news is reflected in the overtime, so we're on a pace. If it maintains, which again, what about 900 and?
Yes, we're looking about, so I did these numbers last week for the manager, just so we had kind of an idea. In the 31st week, we were looking at about 921, but then last week came in kind of light, so if we keep the average at 905, so we're somewhere between 128 and 144 in a surplus for overtime. So the plan is, it is working. Like I said, I know it isn't working as fast as we had anticipated and what we were hoping for, but this shows me that we're actually having the plan of having the extra person so that we're not constantly filling a spot every time someone's out is helping lift that burden. So, you know, we're slated for $1,050,000, and if we go with my most recent number, which included yesterday's payroll, 2 days ago, we'll finish up at about 905 for overtime expended, so.
I just want to, so I think it's important to keep this in context. We talked about it a little bit last year, how level funding overtime and even level expenditure overtime in a fire department where the salaries are increasing is actually a reduction in overtime hours year over year. So if you look at the bottom line for personnel services from FY '24, '25, '26 to '27, so even '24 to 2026, you're talking about, that's more than a 10% increase in personnel services from '24 to '26. And yet our overtime is going to be almost consistent with FY '24 overtime. So while it's not a reduction in overtime, even the level spending of overtime when your other personnel services are going up 10% is pretty much a 10% reduction in the overtime hours that were used. So, you know, if next year it's 920 again, you know, we'll see a reduction over 4 years of, 15% in overtime. Even though we're spending the same amount, salaries are going up, and we're funding the same number of people. So it does show kind of a retraction in overtime hours usage on part of the fire department. And maybe, and I understand that that's overtime is a important measure for us to continue to track and keep a hold on because of the cost of the town. And so this is, I think, just an example of how we're, I think it is being successfully managed.
So I appreciate that comment. However, when we did increase this line item for overtime, it was due to a lot of injuries in filling positions. So appreciate what you're saying as far as increases are, but the reason why this line item was increased so much was because of injuries and filling slots for overtime because he was so understaffed. Just want to give a little of the history there and why that number.
Yeah, no, and that's, I think that's, the reality is that you're right, that a lot of, when we talk about public safety, we're talking about police, fire, and dispatch overtime, because there's minimum staff, unlike, my office or a lot of the other offices in town, there's a number in every one of those offices that we're never going to drop under. And even if we're out 5 firefighters, we still have to staff those to kind of safe levels for the town. And even if we're out 2 or 3 dispatchers, we're going to have to staff those numbers at safe levels for each shift. So I think it's a reality that comes with that public safety role, that overtime is a little bit out of our hands, not completely, but a little bit.
Can we talk about the substation
Absolutely.
and where we're at? I'm looking at,
I'm sorry, could I just ask another question about the budget before
Sure.
we go to that? Is it possible to recover the cost of overtime for the firefighter injured in the ambulance accident through a claim on insurance?
We can explore that.
Yeah, so we have insurance, and we can certainly talk to Maya about how that coverage works with respect to injured on duty claims. So
Is that,
we go through Gowrie, right?
and I don't know whose fault the accident was. I don't really remember the details, but it might be something.
Yeah, was that
a
was
claim
that
we
our
could
fault or
make
their
against-
fault?
We could make against the other drivers. Insurance companies
was
will.
less than 400. They were driving a Tesla, and they were immediately like, oh, yeah, we'll give you the cameras, and then they wouldn't give the police the cameras, and this happened in Burlington. So I'm not sure if there was a split fault, if there was if we were at fault.
I'm not really trying to get into whose fault it was. That's irrelevant to me.
Yeah, we pursue all that insurance stuff.
But
and-
the insurance claim, I mean, if we're paying overtime due to this accident, that's a cost, a direct cost associated with that accident that might be covered by.
We'll reach out to Gary and find out where that stands.
I'm sorry, since we were on the
Yep.
concept of overtime, I just
Absolutely.
wanted to. grab-
Anybody
thank
else
you.
have questions on the budget part? Okay, so now I would like to ask you to help straighten me out because I'm seeing a lot of conflicting dollar amounts moving around concerning the substation.
Okay.
In the expenditure detail, in the capital book on page 74, it indicates that there's no capital items for 2027. So then if you go into the capital book, you'll see a couple of things, one of which is 8,500 for the substation, of which we already approved $600,000. I believe that was last year.
That was 2 years ago. That was
2
the
years ago, in
feasibility study was
2025.
630,000.
Okay, so that was FY 2025. All right, so the notes indicate construction has increased to 12 million.
So, do you mind telling me which page you're looking at?
66.
So last year, we did approve 3.5 million as a kind of a upfront cost as well. So our total was 4.1 between feasibility and a first kind of
Okay,
placeholder. I don't know what we want to classify it as, but a first payment on a substation.
okay.
Yeah, so, and I can try to explain this. So typically speaking, the town has, as a rule, when voting on buildings, they've had separate warrant articles for the building votes. They're not included in the kind of capital plan itself. So the vote for the substation is going, for additional funding for the substation, is going to be in a separate warrant article item just to fund the substation. So we are intending to put on that warrant article to fully fund the remaining costs of the substation from a combination of free cash and the overlay. We are still working with the architect to get there's going to be a kind of a cost reconciliation that'll come through in May. We are what?
We should have it in April, right before.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm sorry. It's going to be in April, so that we'll have it for the Maytown meeting. But we're holding $16 million on that capital item for completing the substation. Our anticipation is that the cost is going to come in at less than that, but that's the that's the number that we're holding,
16 million?
16 million.
Okay.
So that when we sat down with our
So if this is approved for the 8.5 million, that will bring us to 12.
yeah, so this capital item is not showing on a capital plan. We pulled it out of the capital plan. There's going to be a separate warrant article for fully funding it.
For,
12 million from free cash and 4 million from the overlay.
okay, so then what about the 3.5 that was approved last year?
That's already in the wings, it's being spent right now on the engineering,
Okay.
design, the OPM, and the,
All right, so that was changed after this booklet was prepared.
yes, because we hired the architect, we interviewed the architect in late December, we hired the architect, I don't even think we've officially signed that contract, but they started work just a few weeks ago. And so we were, the cost estimates we were getting are kind of like very conservative at the very beginning from our OPM, which is the 16 million. The design has changed from what the OPM was basing it on, which is a 2-story building, and now it's going to be a 1-story building in theory. But we're going to get a final cost estimate for that in April from the architect.
Okay. I think this is something that should have been redone, this page, and distributed to the Finance Committee, because I understand what you're saying, but looking at this, it doesn't mesh with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and I apologize, the intent was to not have this in the capital book at all, so it shouldn't have been in here. It should have been as that separate warrant article item.
Okay. And what about the, you call them SCUBA?
SCBA?
SCBA?
Yeah, we pushed that out a year.
That's in here at 2027.
Push that pause.
Yeah,
Page 67 in the book.
yeah, I'm looking at I'm just looking at the capital projects. That was in there as potentially funded with grant funding, so it's not part of the budget. It's not being funded outside of grant funding.
Okay.
So it's not, we're not spending any money on it. It's either gonna happen with grant funding, or we're gonna
Or it's
push
not
it out
going
to
to
a
happen.
future
Yeah,
year.
we're going to, no, well, we're looking federal. So, we're looking at a assistance to firefighter grant through the federal government. So if we can get it that way, we're just waiting for it to open. If we can get it that way, then we're gonna do it, and if not, then we'll revisit it next year.
Okay,
I apologize for the confusion on that.
okay. Don't get funding. Anybody else have any questions regarding these items?
Not these specific items, but I had asked the chief a question about ambulances and what we have kind of waiting on and what timeline looks like for things.
So the email you sent me, lead times on the ambulances and the whatnot, so yep, we ordered one about 30 months ago. It is currently en route to Hopkinton, the Bulldog Fire Apparatus, to do final fit up and lettering. That I should see sometime in the early to mid stages of March in service, bopping around town. There is a second one that we had ordered, because if you remember right, the original plan was to remount one of the trucks, and it got hit, and we had to shift gears, which is actually, that's the one that's coming in March. The other one is about a year out from that, so we should be seeing that at that point. I know that chassis is already on the ground in Ohio, where it's waiting to be built. So the numbers on those is 440 for the one coming in March, 431 for the one next year. And then you asked the question about the pumper truck. So there is an update on that. So what we wound up doing is, instead of going with a fully custom truck, we looked at a lot of these companies, because there's a huge issue going on right now with some monopoly type things with company called Rev Group, who has bought up a bunch of the bigger manufacturers and has been a key player in skyrocketing prices for these vehicles. So there's been a lot of issues on Capitol Hill regarding that, and hopefully we'll see something go on with that. But what we did is we wound up going into it's called the S-180 program. So it's got a 270-day build time. We should see that in April or May. That truck should be coming in. And the number on that is 771 before we outfit it. But that's gonna give us a truck that, basically the cabs and stuff are all built a certain, like the same way. It's like buying an F-150, if you know, for lack of a better analogy. And, you know, we have some ability to add some lighting, to add, you know, switch around some compartment stuff, but for the most part, you're buying that truck and you can kind of make smaller tweaks to it. It gives a more streamlined lead time. A lot of people that I've talked to that have these trucks that are, you know, considered a stock truck, so to speak, are seeing, most of them are seeing fewer issues as opposed to the custom trucks. When you have build something out custom, you're a one of one. So when there's a problem, it's a constant problem. These ones are more like if they've had a few issues here and there, they're fixed in manufacturing and sent back out. So we should see that truck sometime in April. Like I said, April it should be in Connecticut, and then it'll do its final lettering and things like that, fit up for tools and whatnot, and we'll go from there. So that's that. Let's see. Then you asked a question about grant funding. So through the state, because we are not an MBTA compliant community, we did lose the opportunity at a couple of grants. One is our Safe and Senior Safe program, which is administered through our Fire Prevention Division. It's a smaller grant. It's $8,100 combined. That's usually where we would go into the schools and go to the senior center. Our salt bucket program is administered through that. However, we've made some adjustments within our budget to be able to offset that. So those programs will not be interrupted. And then the only other thing is the firefighter equipment grant through the state and DFS. Our community's eligible for $19,000, but that's a competitive grant, so you can put in for it, doesn't mean you're gonna get it. This year, we're not eligible for it, so I find it a little, I personally find it ridiculous that we're gonna play with safety equipment for public safety through these grants. I can understand other things, but, and that was a big blow up last year, and they allowed it. Now this year, they're not, so. And we didn't get a grant last year. We tried, we have put in for it, so, you know, that's what it is. So all in for the fire side, we are basically non-eligible for about $27,000 worth of grants, but again, the equipment stuff is usually, we would put in for things that are aging and the whatnot, and try to get, you know, upgrade some equipment without having to come through the normal channels with this committee. But we're in really good shape, so I'm not concerned about it. It's not like I'm like, oh man, I was really hoping I would get that. We need these things. We're not in that space, so I think we're okay.
How successful were we in the past with getting that competitive grant for equipment?
We got it twice, and then we didn't get it twice.
And
So we're kind of 50/50.
So 50/50.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, that's.
A lot of the things, so just so you're aware of how it works, when they send out the notice of funding opportunity and they give you the grant, they internally mark things as high, medium, low priority on their own list. So as you go through, I mean, a lot of the things that are the high priority stuff, we're in really good shape on. And they dole that money out first, and then they go through the other ones. So we're in really good shape. I'm not overly concerned about not being able to get that grant this year. Hopefully there's some changes. We can be back on track next year.
Thank you.
Anything else I missed?
For the pumper truck, what was the original time expected for that? You know, I don't have it in front of me.
Probably about 3 years.
3 years? Wow.
Yeah.
Huge change.
Yes, this worked out well.
Yeah.
You know, because we do have engine 3 going in for its refurb, which was approved last year. So it's actually gonna work out really well. They had a slight delay with one of the trucks they're working on right now for another community, so that pushed it back. So it's, when I had talked to New England Fire last week, he's like, yeah, I'm looking at probably April. And then 2 days later, he called and said, but your truck's coming in April. I was like, that's perfect. We'll just swap them out, which will work out great. So we'll move those down and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just had one last one on the fire substation,
Yep.
because I'm twisted and not over the whole thing.
Okay.
Honestly, the 12 million was the number in my head. That was the conservative number everybody was going towards. You know, minus the 3.5 mil that was already allocated. Now I'm hearing 16 million as the conservative number. So from a timing perspective, understanding we're not gonna get the final estimates until April, when there is a separate warrant article for this, will it have the estimates that we received or the 16 million balance that we're?
They're gonna have, the final warrant article, which you guys are gonna see before the, you know, I'll provide it to the FinCom as soon as we have that number, is gonna have the number from April.
Okay.
And so my hope is that we're gonna see a reduction in that 16, because it was based on, so when we originally talked about this project, we were basing it on pricing that we were seeing in buildings that had been recently constructed and were, you know, fully constructed. And, you know, they're basing their pricing on buildings that are out to bid right now. And so, you know, the part of the increase is concern about the tariffs, which is something that really wasn't on a kind of everybody's mind when we originally talked about this. But that was it's one of kind of the driving costs in the increased estimate, conservative estimate is we haven't bought that steel yet. We're not going to buy that steel, you know, now. We won't be able to buy it until sometime in you know, at the end of the year. And there's just concern about, you know, if we're buying out of town, out of country steel, what that's going to cost. But my hope is that, you know, it comes in and lower than that.
Thank you.
So for that, then we'll hear it at the public hearing, we'll hear like the presentation on it or whatever we're gonna hear about the warrant article, but then we won't vote on it at our voting meeting, I would guess. We'll hold off on that vote because we won't.
I think I would leave it up to the FinCom, and I think, you know, we would have that warrant article and say, the number that it's in this is a conservative number that we were given, you know, back before the architect was brought on board by our OPM. We're gonna have an accurate number for a cost estimate that's been reconciled between the OPM and the architect at the end of April to be able to put in that warrant article. So, and the hope is that they're doing, I mean, the chief can speak about it as well. They're actively taking cost into account in the design of this building because they realize that you know, the cost increases were potentially significant. So that's why I switched to a one-story building from a two-story building. That's why they're looking at things like maintaining a consistent roof line, things like how to reduce the amount of fill that has to get removed from the site because of the topography. So they're really taking that into account in their design and trying to make sure that we have a fully functional, appropriate building, but you know, not doing the extra things that might add on things to the cost.
Who was our OPM on that project?
Left Field?
Left Field?
It's the same company
with the
that we're
school?
using for the school.
Okay.
And T-Gas is the architect, and they've got a lot of experience with fire substations.
Yeah, and they're currently working on a couple in the area that are of similar size and whatnot, and they're saying that take this for what it is, they're saying that the cost estimates that are coming in a little lower than what they would have expected. So that's, you know, hopefully that's a little bit of comfort, but I mean, we're not gonna know until it pops in. But we have been, you know, we've been very cognizant of how we're building it, what we're putting in there, and trying to make it, you know, appropriate for the site and the neighborhood, and making sure it looks more like a home than a fire station, and making sure that we're not gonna be grown out of it the day we move into it, so.
Okay. Anybody else? I think that's all we have for you, Chief.
Thank you much.
Thank
Chief.
you.
Appreciate it, boss.
Mr. Slagle, did you want to address the budget books for the tech and how we
Yes.
can, the draft books?
Sure. So I mentioned to the chair that, so on February 5th, we had a manager's meeting. It's where I got the information about the tech budget. So we have a draft budget from the tech. So I have a draft. I will note, there are already things that as we went through it, we found things that needed to be corrected when we got through it at the manager's meeting. So I'm more than willing to provide this to, I mean, we can provide this to the FinCom with the understanding that this is not the final budget, that we will still be provided with the final budget. But I can certainly scan this together. I can make hard copies or just email it to folks, whatever
Okay.
you think makes more sense.
All right.
And get that, I can get that, we can send that out to you Monday.
So,
Why don't, hold on a second, why don't we just have the committee notify Tommy what version they would like it in, and get that out to everybody? Go ahead.
So a document that's shared between.
I did ask if I could share it with the FinCom, and he said
Okay,
yes.
Because that makes it a public document.
Yes, so I did.
Accessible through you know, a request.
I did, so I did ask him
Public-
beforehand.
Public records request.
Yep, I did ask him beforehand, he
I
said
just
yes,
wanted-
it was okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay to
'cause
share.
that's-
But it's clearly labeled draft.
It's clearly labeled draft budget.
Yeah.
I don't think he anticipates there being any
Right.
changes to it.
And as we spoke earlier, if there are any changes, that information would be given to us when they give us the final
Would they give us, the-
one, so that we could go back, and if it affects our interpretation of the budget, we'd be able to make those changes.
so I've been promised that I will get the copy of the final budget the morning of the 25th. So we're meeting in the morning of the 28th.
What about Wilmington schools? When are they meeting, do you know? That's all right, you can get back to us.
I think it's the 11th. I think it's next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have a meeting with the chair of the school committee Monday, so I can certainly talk to him about that, and
Okay.
they're easy, they're right upstairs from me, so I could get that budget as soon as it's ready.
Right,
I'll
yeah.
just knock on the roof.
Yeah,
And
so that's another one that,
you want
Need
the
to
full
be-
budget, but there should be no problem with you guys having the full final budget long before the 28th.
Okay.
It's really the tech that we're really tied up
Okay.
with, the timing.
all right, so again, is that all right, Tommy? If we just email you and say, I'd like a hard copy, I'd like an electronic version? Okay. All right.
Just give us some time, right?
Okay, so, no minutes. Our next meeting is February 28th. It's a Saturday, 3 weeks from today, here, and it will be for the two schools, and it will represent the end of our hearings. Then the following Thursday, we will go into a joint public hearing, and then that Saturday, March 7th, we'll meet here, and we will vote on all the budgetary items and warrant articles.
Our
And-
anticipation is that the joint public hearing will be held in the great room
Great.
with the planning board, just like we did in the auditorium,
Mhm.
the old town hall, and then, obviously, the last Saturday, you guys can have this room all to yourselves.
Thank you, they'll be so cozy. When will you have warrant articles?
So the deadline for the petitioned articles was yesterday at 5. So, and some did come in after we closed at 12:30, so I do know there's a couple. We got 6 petitioned articles. I know there's a couple extra that came in late, so that's 8. It shouldn't be a problem. We have to put those in exactly as written, so there's no editing of that. You know, I think we should be able to have the warrant articles certainly before the 28th. And we'll email them out to you as soon as we have the
Okay.
final form.
And we do have a warrant article from the Shawshene Tech School Committee.
That's, we talked to them, and there's a placeholder for them. I already have the number, so.
And we are going to talk, we need to have a clear understanding of what, how their regional agreement, our regional agreement, speaks to warrant article approval.
Yeah, so the warrant articles, obviously, before I send them out, they go to town council. So I'm going to ask Mark to be able to be kind of have a functional understanding of how that regional agreement works for purposes of these capital projects. And I'll take a look at it myself, but I also want him to be able to answer if the committee has specific questions. And he will be there, obviously, at the public hearing, as he usually is.
Mhm. Okay, well. not
By the way,
too-
that number's about 311,000 is the number that the Shawshene Tech is asking for in their warrant article.
From the town of Wilmington.
From Wilmington.
Okay.
And we're middle of the pack, so there's two that have more than us and 2 that have less than us.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Do I have a
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All together now, go Pats.